Hi guys, what's up? It's Will and John back here. The MMA Huddle is here for UFC Fight Night, Fight Island 5. Marlon Moraes against Corey Sandhagen is the main event. A very good main event in here. And it's actually a card I really like from top to bottom. I think there's a lot of good fights. There's some debuting fighters I'm really looking forward to talking about. And just, I think, well-matched fights, actually, I think, throughout the card. So looking forward to kind of breaking those fights down in a minute. If you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button, give us a thumbs up, give us a comment. All that helps with the analytics of the video and hopefully helps get out there to other people, new people who can then subscribe and grow the channel through that. Coming off a fairly decent card last week, which I wasn't too enamoured with, and I actually didn't watch any fights until the Sunday morning, which is quite hard for me to do, actually. I've never really did that. I say it, but I never do it. Did it, and it might be the new thing for me where I don't watch any fights and just get up super early on a Sunday morning and watch it. So, but this one here, actually, it really catches my attention with some of the fights we got. So, I might go back to watching maybe the prelims or the first few fights of the main card, then go to bed. But John, how are you? Are you looking forward to kind of speaking about this card? I actually think it's a really well matched card.
It is. There's a handful of great little signings that have come along for this card, and just nice matchups. I actually do like the card in standard of fighting, really. Obviously, there's been a couple of moved onto here, like the start of the fight card has the bottom Bruno and Tagir. That's been obviously moved, but I still think it's a quality fight to add on to here. So yeah, mate, I'm looking forward to it. Let's just say the Buccaneers. Oh, damn you, Buccaneers, taking away my Chargers. Herbert didn't do too bad against the great Tom Brady, but man, yeah, he does look good, Herbert, doesn't he? Like, that's not. I don't think he did too. Second game, he's getting the swing of it. He's starting to get the swing of it. Give him a bit of time. Accept this is a learning curve for us, so I'm okay. You boys didn't do too bad either. It was just.
We've kind of went back. I think we're struggling defensively. I think our secondary is really struggling.
Yeah.
To get injuries there, and hopefully, we're against the Jets this week, and they're probably the worst team in the league. So hopefully we can beat them. But again, we're over in their stadium over in the east time zone, so it's always hard coming from west over to the east. So
yeah, it does.
Hopefully we can pick up a W, and like I say, I think we're going to be the type of team that loses to teams with not winning records, but I guarantee we'll end up beating the Seattle Seahawks at some point this season. We've already beat the 49ers. We're going to be the type of team that beats the good teams but loses to your Carolina Panthers or the Detroit Lions, which I don't think I'll be surprised if either one of them make the playoffs. But here's hoping that Kyler can kind of pull it around and we can get a win this weekend.
Yeah.
But something I am gutted about this weekend, if I'm being honest, I'm looking at it now, no Thomas Almeida. That was the thing. I'm a little bit gutted that Perez caught COVID-19 and they were looking for a replacement. Doesn't look like they've got that, so that kind of sucks. If you added that guy with a decent other fighter coming into the UFC here, it might have been it's 14 fights? Yeah, 14. It would have been 14 fights overall, but 13's a good slate of fights here. So
I tell you what, I thought they might have snapped in, mate. Cage Warriors champ, 135 champ, Cartwright, isn't it?
Yeah.
I was surprised they didn't bring him in.
There's people there that they could have brought in, but maybe they're coming soon. Who knows? There's maybe things in the works.
Maybe time they couldn't do it in time for the checks and stuff and tests. Who knows?
If he's still out in Abu Dhabi, I'm sure if they can get him a fight in the next kind of couple of weeks and match him up. But we'll see. I'm looking forward to seeing Almeida back. He's always a fun guy to watch. So are we getting into this?
Of course. Sorry, bro. Yeah, I got distracted.
Yeah, it's all right. Flyweight division. Bruno Silva against a newcomer, a really good newcomer, and Tagir Ulanbekov. Really another, like I said this in my video the other night. There's I'm really glad that they're kind of focusing on the flyweight division again, because there is a lot of talent and they're bringing in a lot of guys who are really, really good, and they're ascending the ranks very quickly. I think Mr. Ulanbekov could be the next one here. How do you see his fight with Bruno Silva going down here?
I love the fact that he's signed up as well. I think did we break this down in the few weeks back, or did we not get round to it?
Yeah, I think we probably did.
We did, and I'm not going to change my pick anyway. I'm going with Ulanbekov. I don't think it's an easy fight against Bruno Silva. I do feel that if you watch Ulanbekov's fights, he has progressed over time. You see as well his progression with his striking, picking his shots a lot better. He has got the grappling kind of kind of CV, but he doesn't use it really that much. He tends to actually more use it on the defensive side. He does get taken down, but he bounces up in like a heartbeat. He reminded me of like old school Chuck Liddell. Chuck would hit the mat and then almost spring back up to his feet. He's just really difficult to keep down, because it feels like he's got so much more fluidity and freedom on his hands in striking. He knows he can get up no matter who it is. And Bruno here, Bruno will want to get on top of him, want to pin him down. He's a little shorter, stockier build, so he might be able to hold him down a little bit better. But Ulanbekov's fought guys similar to Bruno Silva's physique, let's say. So it's not something new to him. You watch as well Ulanbekov's kind of career. You see the different guys that's been put in front of him, not just strikers or grapplers. He's had a mixture of everything. I think he's took the right path. He's had the right matchups put before him. I do see here a clinic, a top display. He'll look confident, smooth. I think Bruno will have a tough time getting into the fight. Really, I think he'll have a tough time getting a rhythm, getting a pace off, getting shots. I think he'll find a lot of his punches fall short, and he'll have a tough time closing that distance. Even if he were to get down, I think he'll bounce back up. It'll just be like a wasted takedown, exerted energy for nothing. So I'm going to go with Ulanbekov. Probably decision win here, quite handily. I do have quite rate him on there in kind of many aspects, and I think he's going to be a great addition to his weight class.
Yeah, I see him as being an undefeated fighter. I think I watched that Shalgas Dumagulov fight. I don't think he lost that fight. I was watching, I was like, that to me wasn't a nail in his record, but that's what happens when the fights can be relatively close and little things decide fights. But to me, he's in this matchup specifically bigger, longer, stronger, southpaw, great grappler, great pressure. He can be very dominant in top, very dominant with his submissions. I think if they kind of build him slow in the UFC, he will be a really good fighter. And giving him matchups like this, Bruno Silva, fights out a fight ready, Henry Cejudo and all the gang there, if he's even in the gym anymore. But he's not. When I kind of look at Bruno, I don't think he's. I don't even think he's a top 15 flyweight. I think Tagir Ulanbekov could definitely be a top 10 guy at least. He's lost a couple of fights. He lost to Taha, that got overturned due to steroids, and then he lost to Dvorak, who is a ranked flyweight fighter now because he's went on and beat another ranked guy. So I just think when I look at Tagir, I think he's bigger, stronger, more ways to kind of win the fight. I think he can win the feet, pushing, grappling, and just wrestle, pretty much wrestling grapple his whole entire fight and kind of win a decision. So maybe a submission, most likely a decision. I'm taking Mr. Ulanbekov as well. Tracy Cortez against Stephanie Egger. This is a late replacement after B. Malecki had to pull out. And earlier on in the week, the betting line was off. I still think the betting line's fairly high. Let me just bring this up right.
I'll guess minus 300 for Tracy, probably something high like that. I'm guessing
200. It's came down, but it was probably in that minus 225 range, maybe a bit higher. Yeah. And Egger was minus 220, minus 225, plus 225, I should say. And the lines came down to where she's plus 170. The thing here that kind of stands out is Tracy Cortez is not a bantamweight. So she is, like, Egger is bigger than her, sizably bigger. Malecki was going to be sizably bigger. She is a 125 girl at heart. So I'm a little bit surprised that they didn't let her drop back down to 125 because that's where she'll be most competitive, in my opinion. And she's completely undersized here. But she's a dog. She's a junkyard dog. She'll fight hard the entire fight. She can throw some nice combinations off. I think her striking defense lacks. If she gets countered too much, Melo did that in her fight. She planted her feet and hit her a few times. But she can grapple. She can pin you against the fence, just get to the back, just work you there for large parts of the fight. Egger wants to get the fight to the ground because her striking's not good. It's poor. And to me, when I watched 3 or 4 of her fights, I even watched some judo fights of her because I was going back and forward with someone I know, and he's actually bet Stephanie Egger, and he was bringing up some things. I was like, dude, I don't think so. There was a couple of fights there where a home gym actually put on the card, so they're not going to have a person who fights in their gym face a good fighter per se. And both girls were losing records, who pretty much got them down the first round, got to a dominant position, and just kind of pounded them out with ground and pound. She's been over to Japan, fighting girls like Reina Mura, who, when you look at her record, she's kind of crushing cans a little bit. To me, the way she wins this fight, if she gets down, she gets into mount, or she gets the back. But to me, Cortez is just scrappier. I think that she'll try and push her against the cage. She'll work in kind of single leg takedowns, just try and chain it together, get into positions where she can maybe get to the back, hit her with some ground and pound. But I like Tracy Cortez to win the decision here. I think Egger coming in short notice. I mean, she is big. She is sizably bigger than Cortez. But to me, I think Cortez has got more fight in her, so I'm going to take her for the win.
Yeah, they're similar in experience, so to speak, in the MMA scene. They're not, even though Edgar's obviously making a debut, Cortez is still super early in her career, like you say, with the pair of the girls. Edgar, I think with the judo and the kind of grappling aspect, as long as Tracy can keep the hips away, she should be out of danger in that aspect. The thing advantage, I suppose, with this, even though she's going to be smaller in stature, the height with the lower centre of gravity for Cortez could play an advantage for her. I would agree. Well, I think she needs to really bull rush Stephanie, because what Stephanie does with her striking, yes, it's poor. She puts that chin up. She starts to throw punches and puts her head back and leans her chin up in the air, and she's open for shots and counters. In the fight she fought, the girls that she was competing against didn't have any counter striking. Didn't have any head movement. They didn't really know what to do. And I think if anyone with, half a sense of the coach, you would drill a couple of little simple counters and you could really hurt Stephanie Edgar here. I think Tracy Cortez needs to double up on her punches, close that distance, get her to the cage, and just be, like you say, dirty boxing, keep it tight. Don't let Stephanie get in front of it. Cortez was getting hurt by Mello in that fight because she doesn't move her head. She's very stiff, Cortez, when she's striking. That head doesn't move an inch. She needs to definitely work on head movement, just relax a little bit more and flow with her striking. That will come with time. It will come with confidence. Maybe she was a bit, I don't want to say nervous, but a bit apprehensive, and she might have just been really tense. This fight, she could be a lot more fluid. Again, slightly short notice as well for Edgar, so you think to yourself, Cortez kind of style could wear on you, and it could be exhausting. So I'm going to go with Cortez. I think she can get a decision win. I just feel Edgar's striking, if Edgar had a better striking back in the back pocket, she could really probably cause Cortez damage here. But I just feel like the poor striking she has, Cortez doesn't have too much of a fear factor to go into this going forward. She'll have a bit of confidence that she's not going to get, Amanda Nunes power punches coming at her face. So I'm going Cortez, bro.
Moving in the featherweight division, this is a really well-matched fight. I like this fight a lot. Giga Chikadze against Omar Moraes, who's actually making the drop down to 145, which I actually had no idea. I don't know how it didn't ring my bell when I seen that. Obviously, Giga's a guy that fights at featherweight, but it rung out to me straight away. I don't know whether it's because Omar fought a natural 145 or last time out in Benitez, but I kind of realised this dude's actually dropping from 155, and he looked kind of jacked at 155. So I was just really interested when I saw that aspect. Really well matched fight. How do you see this one going down? Both guys with some really good kind of different strikes, but big power guys, especially on the Moraes side to the technique. How do you see this one kind of going?
That's exactly what it is. You've got Moraes who can crack. He's not a knockout artist, as people would say. I think that obviously when he got to the UFC, you saw that he can hit hard. He definitely rocked Benitez in the fight. He definitely hurt him, but he does get hit himself a bit too much for my liking. He's fighting a guy in Giga who's bread and butter is kickboxing. So Giga, Giga's used to strikes coming at him, block counter. That's just in him. So for me, for Omar, I want to see how he does it. The weight cut could play a factor. We don't know. Obviously, he's got to travel all the way over for this card, or wherever his training camp is from, and how long he's been there. I am interested to see how he does for 3 rounds, because generally he's quite aggressive in a fight. He's quite forward coming. He's happy to throw heavy hands, and when throwing those heavy hands, that's obviously effort that goes into throwing those punches. He's got a good chin on him, because, like I said before, he does get hit a little bit too much for my liking. And here, I think that with Giga's, I think it's a more suitable fight for Giga, because I think that he's obviously he's more suited to featherweight because he's fought there before. It's a weight class he's more comfortable with. So he could probably as well use his kicks, I think, in this fight, teep kicks, keep Omar at range, and maybe use like a little bit of a jab and straight kicks and leg kicks as well. Because with Omar's forward aggression, he is open as well to the leg kicks, especially on the front leg. Again, I'm not a big. I don't think Giga's super overly impressive. I think there's guys in that featherweight division that will absolutely murder him given the fights. I think obviously picking the right fights for Giga. He's got, I'd say, lucky, but he's got more suitable opponents. I think he just might get the better of this fight. I think Moraes is tough to. He'll be a tough guy to stay out the 3 rounds. But I wouldn't be shocked if Moraes knocked out Giga. I just don't know if the power will transfer down to featherweight, and obviously the conditioning. This one's a bit of a. If Omar had fought before, did a few cuts at 145 and he looked comfortable, I maybe would be swayed. I'm just a bit tentative. I kind of sway towards Giga, maybe 2 rounds to 1 decision, but I'm not overly confident in the pick.
Yeah, to me, I've never really been super impressed with Giga either, but I think this is a matchup that I've got a feeling it's going to stay standing. I think both guys throw fairly low volume and kind of dangerous in their own ways. There's definitely the power on the Moraes side. You see that with his kicks, low kicks. He can throw some good combination striking, but you've probably got the more experienced striker over in Chikadze over the other side there, who's been probably 50-odd kickboxing fights, fought in Glory a number of times, so he was kind of really focusing in on his striking. He's not going to be one that kind of comes in here and grapples. I don't see Moraes doing that, even though I do think he probably could do it, because we have seen a little bit against Dong Mai decide to take to the ground and have a little bit of top pressure there. But to me, I just see this being a very, very, very close striking affair between the pair of them. Giga's been to a couple of split decisions already, which I think he got lucky in a little one in the second one that he had. But to me here, when you look at Moraes, I mean, I'm not really one. I do go on Instagram and have a look and see what's going on, and he actually looks good. I think he's did the weight cut properly. He's not like did it short notice. He's did it kind of over a long time and really kind of dialed it in. And he looks in great shape. But you still have to think that he's going to fade a little bit. And Giga has faded in a couple of fights as well. And he's like, considering the opponents he's faced, especially Alvin Rivera, I would expect him to be the bigger guy, especially on short notice, to probably maybe knock him out, and he just couldn't get the shots off. So to me, if Moraes doesn't really gas, I just see it being a close striking affair. I actually think it's got split decision kind of written all over it. I can see Giga starting off well, or Moraes starting off well, and then Giga starting to take over. I have Giga in a very close striking affair. That's how I see it. I think he's the more credentialed overall striker, but he has to be careful of the weapons that Moraes has. But Moraes is actually older, which is a little bit concerning. Like, he's in his mid-30s, making the weight cut down. Both guys kind of similar in the way, because similar records, similar kind of stats with strikes absorbed, with strikes thrown, and defenses and stuff. So this is why I'm kind of thinking it's going to play out fairly close. I'm on the Giga Chikadze side, but it could. I think it's going to be close personally. So yeah, AlQaisi against Tony Kelley. Both guys kind of jumping back in here in the span of 8 weeks when they last fought. I mentioned Alvin Rivera, AlQaisi. I think he fought tough in that one. I think he's a very scrappy dude, but I think he's really only got one thing in his mind, and that's to get the fight to the ground. That's fairly obvious. Tony Kelley, he had a really good fight with Kai Kamaka, which was, both guys were just slinging, and rightfully got fight of the night, showing that he could get taken down, but he also did well to work back up to his feet very quickly. So I think that AlQaisi will get takedowns, but I think Kelley will get back to the feet. I think once he gets there, I think he will start to kind of hit on AlQaisi. But if AlQaisi can take him down and have some top time down there, I think he could win some rounds. So I've been I picked Kelley earlier on the week, and I'm like, I think maybe AlQaisi's a little bit more kind of live than I initially thought. But I'm going to stick with my original pick, and that's going to be Tony Kelley. But not overly a fight I looked too much into. I kind of watched the last fight, obviously in the UFC, and then the one before that. But nothing I really want to do. I'm going to kind of sit back and watch that one, but I'm going to go Kelley for the win. Yeah,
and Kelley seemed a little bit, when he first started as well, in the UFC, his footwork, he was almost wired. He was too too excited, like a little puppy. You know what I mean? Just like a puppy with two tails running around, a bit wild. And obviously got himself in that fight, and it was fantastic against Kanaka. I thoroughly enjoyed the fight, like you say there, Will. It was a tremendous little fun battle. But hopefully now he'll, in this bout, I think if he's good with his footwork, as he is, he's got nice footwork, he's good at moving in and out and moving to the angles, Ali's just going to want to charge him, close him, grip him and grab him down. But Ali's technique is annoying for me because he uses strength. You see he tries to muscle the takedown. And in doing that, you're actually giving your opponent an opportunity to reverse it because he's trying to like grab them and like almost squeeze them to the ground. It's weird. Whereas I think with that, he's got good conditioning, Ali. He's got a lot of energy about him. He comes forward aggressive. I feel like if he was able to turn the corner on the takedown attempts, he would have a lot more success. But he seems to almost wait till he gets to the cage. And yes, using the cage can help, but it actually can make it harder to get takedowns if the guy's got a good takedown defense on the cage, because there are two types of takedown defenses. You've got on the cage and in the middle of the ring where there's nothing there to stop the takedown. I feel here Kelley's going to have some very, very, very hard times in the first round and a half, maybe, because of the kind of takedown attempts from Ali. I think as long as you say, well, if he can keep the fight getting back up to the ground, make Ali fight to get like the takedowns and make him fight to get the when the fight comes back up to his feet, it will almost deter Ali, but also it will reduce the chances of Ali going for the takedowns because he's not getting a great success. I think Kelley's got nice hands. I think he's better in the striking department. I just think he can land a few more in each round just to kind of tick it over, because the judges. Yeah, they'll judge. They'll say, yeah, he's got a takedown, but Ali doesn't seem to do a lot when he's got on top. That's what you're going to look at. Is he getting any success with damage? Grabbing someone and holding him, that's all good. That'll score you a point. But I think Tony can land punches in between rounds, and when he's landing the strikes, the judges will see damage landed, and I'm going to go with Kelley here to slight win. Might be again. Nothing too crazy. You could see a split again here, Will. I think you could very well see a split because of the time on top could be compared to the strikes landed. But I'm going to go Tony Kelley on this one.
This next fight, actually, I think is a really fun fight.
Yes.
Impa Kasanganay against Joaquin Buckley. I'm really interested to see Impa because I think he's got a lot of talent. I think he's a very versatile fighter. And Buckley, I was kind of impressed with his short notice debut against Kevin Holland, who's, even though he kind of got murked a little bit, I think he fought tough. So who have you got in that one there?
Yeah, I think people might write off Joaquin a little bit, and I would hate them to think that, because the guy, like you say, he came in short notice. He fought a guy who, like, it's annoying. Joaquin Buckley's a little bit like Hector Lombard. He's just a bit too short for middleweight, and he's just a bit too small for he's a bit too big for welterweight. So he's kind of stuck in that kind of realm where he's just going for the middleweight kind of size. You've got to be, he had a guy who was it was the perfect fight for him. The opponent, the size, everything was perfect for Holland there, because he just kept distance, kept range, picked them off, kept at the end of the punches. You see with Joaquin Buckley, he's just a small little bundle of energy. When he gets in punching range, he just lets his absolute haymakers out at you, and they look like they're going to hurt. They look heavy. They look like they're going to damage. Impa, young gun, coming in still, learning as he goes. The UFC did really smart with giving him Mackie in that fight. I thought that was a perfect little fight for him, because Mackie landed some shots. He did land a couple of good shots on him, but Impa, it was a good test for Impa to see how he manages a bit of danger with someone with a bit of a punch on, a bit of pop, but not enough. Like, he wasn't a knockout artist, Impa, in my opinion. But Mackie, I thought it was a suitable fight. It got Impa lots of ring time, lots of experience. I think this is a fight where Impa needs to imply the grappling aspect, because you can't really, I don't think Impa yet has the footwork and range nailed down, and this is a fight that's very dangerous. Buckley is live, ladies and gentlemen. Like, I would be not surprised if I woke up Sunday morning and Buckley gets a knockout, because if Impa's not smart and stays in that pocket too long, Buckley is going to crack, and he cracks hard. So I think here this is a fight where we might see Impa imply the grappling game. He's still learning his trade, like we say. Buckley's strong. He'll muscle out of it a couple of times, but using that explosive power and muscle is going to really take a toll on his explosive energy, his power and his shots. So I think here you might see Buckley maybe fade off a little bit, and Impa can just really start to put that grappling aspect into the second, third round. I'm again going for maybe a submission decision win in the later rounds for the submission, probably third round for Impa, but it's not a fight to write off Joaquin Buckley on. This dude is live. Watch out. He is dangerous. I am not uber confident because he's a little power man, but I'm going Impa because I just can't think, like you say, Will, there's a ceiling on the kid. I hope he does well.
I like Impa in the fight, but I kind of do think that Buckley has a shot here because, I mean, he sits there and he plants his feet and he swings. And I don't know, Impa, his last fight to me was a little bit kind of out of what he usually normally does. He usually kind of fights to a pace, fights kind of smart, but I think in the UFC, he wanted to show that he's kind of got an all-around game and he's shown he's got big striking. If you look at his previous fights, he can clinch up, he can grapple a little bit. Buckley here, he's not going to have enough time to, because I believe this is a short notice fight that he's jumping in for here as well. Could be a little bit, so Abu Azaitar, and however on September 26th, so he's had a couple of weeks, so he's jumping back in here on short notice. He's not going to be making big jumps in his skill, because I know he'll be in the gym, but he's jumping in 2 weeks notice, so he's just kind of getting in there and getting the fights when he can get them. So to me, as an all-around fight, I think Impa's good, really, really crafty, very versatile, very smart fighter, actually. And I think he has a couple of ways to kind of, I don't want to say easily win this fight, but I think if he fights smart, kind of goes back to his kind of older self, then I think he could easily 30-27 someone like Buckley here. But he might want to come out and swing bombs a little bit, which is a little bit, with this guy, he can throw some absolute bombs, and he took some good hits against Kevin Holland as well. Went down eventually, but I'm going to go with Impa Kasanganay. I just think that he's a little bit more better of a fight at this spot. I think the gym that he's coming from is on a heater at the minute. All the fighters seem to be winning big fights, and I'm kind of hoping it continues here. So for Impa Kasanganay for the W there. Next up, heavyweight division, Chris Daukaus against Rodrigo Nascimento. I like Nascimento personally myself. Chris Daukaus, both guys obviously coming off a win in their UFC debut. Daukaus against Parker Porter. Nascimento, I've totally forgot who he was against.
Submitted him.
Who's against again? That's really going to annoy me.
Who was that again? I know there's how annoying I know the win.
Yeah.
But I don't know who. Terrible, isn't it? Terrible.
Was it not Jake Collier?
No, it wasn't Jake Collier. Here you go. There you go. Dontel Mays. Yeah.
For some reason I was thinking Tom Aspinall there for a second, but got him out of there in the second round, and that's clearly, you see when he got that fight to the ground here, that's where he works his strongest, is getting there and getting into his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I think initially this will start on the feet. I think it'll be a little bit tepid on the feet. Maybe Daukaus will have the advantage there, but I think if he can get the fight to the ground, that's, in my opinion, where he's got a definitive advantage here. And Daukaus has been submitted in the past. It's kind of funny because Daukaus' brother, who also fights in the UFC, is actually a bit of a whiz on the ground, very aggressive, even off his back and so on. But being a heavyweight, that's not something that usually kind of plays out too well, is being kind of fluid on the ground. It's usually kind of stand and bang or just be a kind of crappy fight, really. I mean, Parker Porter, both guys were coming in fairly short notice there, but it wasn't a great fight, in my opinion. Not a great win, but landed the punches, landed the knee, got the guy out of there. For me, Nascimento, I think it'll be fairly even on the feet, and I think once it hits the ground, I think that's where he'll have his advantage. So I've got Nascimento, I've got him via submission in the mid part of this fight here.
Yeah, I like this matchup because I think you've got two guys, like you say, coming super confident, but for me, Porter, he wasn't moving, he's not active, he's a bit slow, doesn't move his head, and he's a fat git, isn't he? Let's be honest. That dude, man, like, he needs to find a salad bar. Like, what? It's called slim fast, not slim slow, kidder. Jeez, man, he looked, for his UFC debut, you would have thought he would have trimmed up a little bit and put that effort in, but man, he was not. Chris looked okay, like you said, he just threw straight shots. That's all he'd do is throw straight shots. Porter didn't move head movement, didn't move out the way, just go straight, and it worked. I think Rodrigo, he's a bit better I think he's more active on the feet, as in he's got a bit more footwork, he's got a bit more movement than Porter, so he's going to be not as stationary, so Chris is going to have to work around that. I think when Chris comes in for a 1-2s, Rodrigo, that's a perfect opportunity to grapple, get that clinch game going. Go for the takedowns. Rodrigo's going to have those inside-outside leg trips. He's not going to be shooting for double legs. He's going to be grappling, get the overhooks, and be tripping him up with those little kind of judo, kind of almost takedowns. And I think you'll see then Rodrigo get on top. It's how Chris reacts to it to get back up again. If he gives up his back, man, Rodrigo will, for the size of the guy, he's nimble on that ground. He's not poor on the ground. He's good. He's opportunistic. I like the look of him. I'm going Rodrigo. I just feel like there is a bit of a gulf with that side of it. And when there's too much of a gulf, when things are kind of equal on the feet, I kind of got to go towards the Rodrigo here. I think he can get this fight to the ground. I think he can get a submission, maybe second, third round. But I got Rodrigo as well, bro.
So moving down to the middleweight division, we've got Tom Breese against KB Bhullar, another guy coming in here. UFC debut, 8-0 undefeated guy coming out of Canada. Who I think is a fairly solid kind of guy. Tom Breese, I think, he was once, in my opinion, a prospect coming through in the British Isles that a lot of people were kind of high on. And to be honest with you, the injuries, inactivity, his own kind of problems, he's kind of really... To me, he's really fizzled out, and I don't think he's probably far away. Depending how he does fight-wise, I don't think he's far away from retirement, in my opinion. Because from what I hear, he's a very, very, very good coach, and that's something he could easily transcend into. So, who have you got in this encounter here between Breese and Bhullar?
Yeah, it kind of breaks me a little bit when I see Tom Breese's name. I just think, he's like a Joe Riggs, where Joe Riggs had all the potential and just could not apply that in the cage. And it just breaks you because you see moments of Tom Breese and you think that dude is a savage. When he's on, people are going to have a rough time against him. He's got top draw boxing, he's got solid jiu-jitsu, but he can't, like in his last match with Bruno, he's there trying to joke around with him as well. They were joking before he got smashed to bits, and I was like, dude, you can't be doing that right now. Like you weren't on top. If you're on top, yeah, you can joke all you want. You're on bottom. Someone's punching you. You might want to shut up and get up. The dude's physically strong, absolute tank, and it just doesn't apply. This KB Bhullar guy. I watched some of his fights. I think the guy's got good movement. I think he's got some good strikes. He's got some head kicks that he throws. He's got good. He has got some good skill sets about him. But it's just the opponents that he's fought. I was a little bit unsure about the level and how good they were, because I get stuck where I still compare them to like Tom Breese. I go, well, Tom Breese to me is still like different kettle of fish. I think he's still one of the top guys out there, but you have to take into account Tom Breese's head is just, I don't know where it is. And like you say, Will, we just had Stevie Ray retire recently with a knee injury, which is a shame, but family comes first. But then you've got Tom Breese would be most likely one of the other guys who are in the UK scene in the UFC to step away from this. He did beat Matt Dwyer, KB Bhullar, which was like a former UFC guy, which is kind of his ticket to the UFC, got a decision win. But when you look at the record of some of the other guys, they're all like kind of 500s, nothing too out this world. He can get some submissions here and there, but I think, can Tom Breese do it? I don't think, because KB Bhullar is almost a nice matchup for Tom. And what I mean by that is, Tom likes to be kind of control the centre of the ring, pop his hands off. Brendan was just full on, just charged at him. KB Bhullar's not that style. He's another guy, he's a patient guy, likes to pick shots at him. And that's when, if you give Tom a bit of space and time, he can find his shots well, he can get his counters. He did it with, I know Dan Kelley was about 622 years old when he fought, and but he still was patient with his picks. He picked his shots with Dan Kelley. He didn't rush in at Dan Kelley. He picked the shots at the right time. I know he got him in the eye, wherever it was of a punch, but do I pick Tom Breese? Do I pick KB Bhullar? I'm going to go off the beaten track. I'm going to go with Tom Breese. I think it's a silly mistake by me. I shouldn't be picking Tom Breese, but it's a little bit of hope. I think I'm clinging on to hope here. I'm thinking, Tom, please, Tom, for the love of money, just get a win. You need a win. This feels like it's the UFC's last door. They're like, if you can't beat him and he'll be in the UFC, you shouldn't be in. But then again, he's an 8-0 guy. Are they building KB Bhullar up with giving him Tom Breese? Oh, man. I'm going to go with Tom, but I know I'm already making the wrong decision here. I'm already regretting this.
Yeah. When I watched Bhullar, I wasn't super impressed, if I'm being honest with you. I think that, like you say, his level of opposition is not great, but that you kind of get that in some territories where people just won't fight other good guys, and it happens. But like I say, he's big for the division. He's like 6'4", and he's got a longer reach here against Breese. He's going to be bigger than Breese. And when you see Tom Breese in real life, he's a big dude as well. So to have a guy that's bigger than you, and it's going to be, maybe it might be the first time that's happened. I don't know if Brendan Allen might actually. He probably is a little bit bigger, but like you really cannot trust Tom Breese. But if you're looking at this fight skill for skill, I think that Tom Breese, he can pop a jab. He's got some power. I think he is very, very good in the ground. I think his fight IQ in his last fight, in my opinion, was kind of went down the pan a little bit. That, like, he should have kept on the feet there and try not maybe make it so much into a grappling match early where he just got into a bad position and Brendan Allen got him there. So, like I say, if Tom Breese is kind of mentally in the right spot here, I think he could win this very, very easily. But you cannot trust kind of Tom Breese at the minute. So I'm going to pick him just because fighter for skill. I think he's better than Bhullar in my opinion. So I'll take Tom Breese. I think he can get him out of there. I also think he can win a competitive decision. But the pick is going to be Tom Breese in that one. Moving on to the main card now. Oh my jeez, this is probably, I actually think outside the main event, this is the fight I'm most looking forward to because I've been an llia Topuria fan for 3 years. I've had my eye on him, and it's something I love doing is keeping an eye on fighters that you're seeing coming through. And I think initially it was 2017. He was supposed to fight for the Cage Warriors Bantamweight Championship, and he missed weight badly, like 139, I think he was, against Brian Bouland. And I think what they were trying to do is the winner of that one was going to fight Jack Shore, which, when I think it now, Jack Shore against llia Topuria, I'm like, yay, what a fight that would have been. I'm a fan of Topuria, but I'm also, and I was kind of writing off Zalal a little bit, but see when I went back and watched him, the dude is so crafty, and he's got a lot of good things in his skill set. As a fighter, obviously he's got more UFC experience. He's had 3 fights this year. Went to decision kind of either time. But some of the things that I really liked: long straight jab, good footwork, good movement, good cardio. Comes out from Colorado, so you know those guys can go hard for 15 minutes. He's got a really quick high kick, can attack the body, can attack the low kicks, can get takedowns. I've seen submissions. And the guy's very smart in there. If you watch him in between rounds, he's saying, look, this guy is starting to fade. I'm going to get him. I'm going to outwork him here. He's going to get me. So he's very smart in the cage. He's a very crafty fighter, and someone who I don't want to say I was disrespecting, but I was maybe disregarding a little bit. But when you go back and you actually watch his fights, he's got a lot of good stuff in his skill set. And he's only 20. Both guys are 23 years old here. Topuria, you look at him, he's coming out of Georgia, predominantly Spain. I think he trains out of Spain, but these Georgian guys, your Arman Sarukian, your Giga Chikadze, I'm probably missing other guys, Mirab Devashvili, these guys are coming out of Georgia, and they're bulldogs, man. They're really tough guys to face. And here's another one here, big. I think he's got 1 punch knockout power, showed that in his last fight. He's got well-timed entries into takedowns. He's very aggressive with his submissions. I think he's submission over position. So he will attack chokes very quickly. You've seen that in the Cage Warriors fight. Where he got his arms around Bhullar very, very quickly. Got him out there with a beautiful submission. Very strong. He is undersized in this fight, and that's my worry. Because I feel that Topuria can't get him out of there quickly. I think Zalal's going to take over late. And I feel Topuria would be good at 135. And that might be better for him in the UFC, having the use of the PI. Maybe make that cut down there where he's not killing himself, he's doing it properly. And I think 135 is the vision for him because, like I say, he will look small next to Zalal here. But Zalal, to me, gives you opportunities in fights. I've seen him had his back taken, I've seen him taken down, pushed against the cage. And when you look at Topuria, some of his fights, he timed his takedowns brilliantly, really, really well. And I think he's just got his black belt as well in jiu-jitsu. So very strong fighter. Don't like the fact it's on short notice, but I know that he was getting ready for a fight, so he was cutting weight, he was getting ready, he was getting fight shape. They were trying to match him up here at Fight Island, and then the right guy kind of fell out. He got the opportunity to come in here. big fan of his. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing Zalal because, I mean, anytime you fight 4 times in the 1 year, but I don't want to say, when I've watched him, he's not made big skill jumps, in my opinion. He's fought fairly low caliber guys, and in my opinion, I think Topuria, in my opinion, but I'm a fan of Topuria, I think he's of a higher level of the 3 guys he's faced. I'm going to pick Topuria to stop him in the first couple of rounds because I feel that if that's his chance to do it. I don't think he can do it over a 15-minute spot because I think Zalal, like I say, he's crafty, he's versatile, he can win close rounds well. So looking forward to seeing Topuria. I'm going to pick him here against Zalal, but tough fight for your UFC debut against a very crafty guy.
Yeah, Topuria is a wonderful little talent, and you like say, well, he's quite thick set with the muscle side of things, and you think to yourself that muscle carries water, so that helps. The more muscular you are, the more you can actually potentially cut weight. So I'd like to think the same thing. Well, I'd like to think maybe two fights into it, he might think to himself, you know what, I'm a bit undersized in this division. Regional scene, I can get away with it. A lot of guys you'll find they can get away without doing that cut. But you get to UFC, you start to think maybe I should cut down. And he might get that PI help. He might just drop that 135 and you'll see a different animal down there. And I think whichever division he's in, he's going to be an absolute savage. Because Youssef he's annoying, isn't he? God damn it, that kid's annoying. Footwork, just running round, and the guys chase him. Everyone just chases him, and you're just sitting there watching and thinking, he's setting you up here, yet you keep doing it. Because all you got to do is chase, and he goes step, and what he'll do is he'll step round, and then he stops. You think he's going still, and in that split second when his foot hits the ground, he shoots forward, bursts out a 1-2 combination, a knee, whatever it is, or, as like you said, Will, he's thrown a takedown, so you don't know what's going to come, because what he'll do is he'll throw kind of a couple of each one, and then that's you done for the fight, because you don't know what he's going to throw, so your counter isn't there to be able to throw anything back. He's elusive, he's smart, he uses the whole ring, superb cardio, insane cardio, just can keep going for days. He can grapple with you, he'll still keep doing the same thing. He does get hit. I do find it a bit annoying how low he has his hands at times, especially when I wish you could judge the distance a little bit better. There's times to have your hands down when there's enough space, but there's times when you need to get those goddamn hands up, and he's been hit a couple of times, and I think, man, if you had dudes who could crack, you'd have a bit of an issue. We've got a guy here, Topuria, he can crack. I think Topuria, if I'm his coaching team, I would have drilled him to smash those leg kicks in. As soon as Zalal came in, I would shoot the low kick, block upstairs, shoot the low kick, just chop those legs down, try my best to slow him down a bit. And that's when the opportunity will arise for the hands. I'm going to go with Youssef Zalal because I find he's just annoyingly elusive. He's hard to catch. He's hard to hit a lot to get you enough points in the fight. I find that guys punch too much air with him. And from a judging perspective, he lands more, even though he doesn't land clean maybe, it looks like he's getting like a 2-3 punch combo burst and shoots off again, and you're left hitting thin air. He's very good at doing that, and he's very good at just making you exhaust yourself by chasing him and missing. So I'm going to go with Zalal. I think he can just be annoying again. I think he's an elusive, annoying fighter. He's going to get absolutely murked one day by jumping around like that, and some dude's going to time it and crack him and put him to sleep. Kind of like Stipe Verdum.
Yeah.
It's like that kind of thing. But I'm going to go with Zalal here, decision.
Moving on, heavyweight division. British hope here, Tom Aspinall. Second fight in the UFC against Alan Baudot, who's coming in here short notice after Sergey Spivak had to pull out last week. How do you see this heavyweight going down?
Tom all day long. Tom is a savage, folks. What people won't know is he's a monster on the ground. Absolute monster on the ground. He just doesn't go to the ground because he's so quick on with his hands and his footwork. He's got very good boxing, and I mean he's got very good boxing. He's able to catch guys quick. I think in this fight, if I was Tom Aspinall, I'd be going to the ground with it because Alan's shown in the ground he's got a weakness. He can get submitted, and he's also a light heavyweight. Alan he's fought up and down. It's just because he just doesn't bother cutting the weight. He lost his last fight. Don't get me wrong, the guy he fought, got popped, and that's why the decision got reversed. Because I watched the fight at first and I went, I maybe thought he did something wrong in the fight. I watched it, nothing got turned, had to go and research it. But even still, even though the guy was taking some recreational kind of sports enhancement thing, the skill set, though, from Allen was evident. You know, he saw what his weaknesses were, you saw what his strengths were. When he kept spamming those elbows in that second round as well, that just griped me a little bit. I don't think he'll get even close to landing shots like that. I think Tom's at just a different level. And I think Tom will be able to land heavier strikes. Tom's a big heavyweight too. He's not a small heavyweight. I think Tom will be able to get the hands on him and get him to the ground. And if he wants to, just submit him anyway he wishes. So I'm going Tom Aspinall first or second round.
Mm-hmm. I was looking forward actually to the Spivak fight because Spivak's actually turned out to be a kind of I don't want to say dangerous, but he's a tougher guy to face. Yeah, I thought it was a good fight for Tom to see really where he is. To me, yeah, I think he rolls. Yeah, Baudot, when I was watching, was like not super quick. I think Tom's got the speed on him. I think he's got the variety of strikes. Like I say, he's got the ground game. I'm still a little bit kind of like I want to see more of this ground game because I know he got his black belt from his dad, and the one time that I kind of have seen him on the ground is Stuart Austin. He got submitted and kind of gave up some bad positions, but that was like 5 years ago. So kid's obviously moved into a bigger gym, Cowbone, and he's got a lot of good guys behind him there, sparring with good guys. And he showed in his debut the guy's got very, very quick hands, but it was against Jake Collier 2.0, which...
Too fat, you mean?
2.0, which should be 2.0 if you know what I mean. So I've got him to win here. I think that he can roll through Baudot here, and the UFC can maybe start to build him up with some better fights going forward. Middleweight division, you've got Markus Perez against Dricus du Plessis, a guy coming in from the UFC, from KSW. I have known about him because I keep a close eye on the UFC because I do feel that the African boom is coming, and they are a big promotion down there in South Africa. Huge. When you look at some of the attendances that they get, I know they might be one of the only shows in town regarding stuff like that, but they've had guys come to the UFC, they've built guys up to where they've gotten to that spot. They've never really turned out to be great, if we're being honest with you. But this might be the best of the lot because Dricus has won a couple of belts there. He was at welterweight, went up to middleweight. Then the big fight to me was when he came over and beat Soldic. I did not see Soldic. To me is a destroyer. So good. I think if he comes to the UFC in the next year, like 24, 25, they can really build him into being a solid welterweight prospect. And he came out there, he kind of withstood what Soldic had early. Shots, he was against the cage, getting hit with some ground and pound. Went into the second round and then sparked Soldic out with an absolute beautiful counter left hook out of nowhere and knocked him dead with it. And he comes forward, he kind of wades shots a little bit, so he's a little bit predictable. You can counter him. I have seen him being countered easily. The second Soldic fight was a prime example of that. But even against lower kind of caliber guys, you can get at him. He's got big leg kicks. I think both guys actually have big kind of leg kicks. Yeah, him and Perez. He's a guy who's got clubbing, like ground and pound. If he gets you into that position where if he gets you in a spot where he's raining down shots, you could be in a lot of trouble there. I think his takedown defense needs a lot of work. Both guys, in my opinion, very strong. You've seen like he hit like a German suplex, belly to back suplex on Soldic in the first fight, and then Perez to me has got one of the better kind of body lock takedowns in the UFC. Don't like the fact that Perez gets bullied a little bit against the cage. I think he needs to stop that because that's how he's kind of losing some of these fights, close encounters there where he's getting pushed against the cage. Dricus is coming in here short notice. Didn't like the fact that, I mean, he came over to KSW, fought Soldic twice, won one, lost one. There's no harm in that. Then he fought Jolton Luterbach, I think his name is, and I thought he was losing that fight before. I mean, Mark Goddard stopped the fight, but Luterbach was on his knees just with his arm there, and really he could have exploded back to his feet, but didn't do it, so he was asking for that fight to be stopped, and then he was moaning afterwards. And then I think he had a little bit of heave-ho with KSW. He wanted to come to the UFC. UFC kind of really weren't interested at that point, so he went back to UFC and fought like a 30-year-old guy with like 4 pro fights who used to sponsor Dricus du Plessis back in the day. So it's like, yeah, not the greatest way to kind of get into UFC here, but he's coming short notice. He's got his opportunity. I do believe he deserves to be in the UFC if that's where he wants to be, with a 14-2 record, and he's won multiple kind of world titles in different organisations. So I can see this being a close fight pretty much as well. I think that the value, in my opinion, is on Markus Perez, more experience. I think he has fought decent guys. But Duplessis, like I say, I rate his Soldic win. That's going to be a great win in your record regardless going forward. To me, Perez here, he needs to be light on his feet, try and take this into later rounds, and I think if he can establish in those later rounds, he can win the fight here. So I've had some people come at me because I've picked Markus Perez. I think Dricus Duplessis has got some fans out there, and they're saying Duplessis all day, and I'm just like, that's not for me. I like Perez in the spot. He's an underdog here. I don't think he should be the underdog, but that's my opinion. So I'm going to take Markus Perez via close decision.
Your point was bang on before about the cage stuff with Perez. I feel the same way. I think he backs himself up a little bit too much when he doesn't need to, and that also puts down his output in that mannerism. He kind of almost, I don't say flops back, but he just kind of is a bit too relaxed. And to be honest with you, Duplessis on the ground, he's got some legit grappling bits there. He's a good submission dude. So I think Perez here, if he can just make it ugly and fight it close, it could be a hard fight to Duplessis. Because you've got to remember, he went down to welterweight and he's back to middleweight. He's looking in good shape. He's looking in great shredded shape. But Perez should, I think, have a bit of a size advantage here. So when it comes to the grappling aspect, we've seen Markus Perez. He's got good conditioning. Markus Perez he could put out good 3 rounds of just brawling. He will brawl for 3 rounds. So the good thing is, this is a hard test to come into the UFC for, because you've got a guy who's hard nosed in Perez. He will not be just rolling over and taking an L. He'll go 3 hard rounds with you. If you want to grapple on the cage for 3 rounds for takedowns, he'll grapple and spend 15 minutes with you fighting those underhook battles. And Duplessis, he's a great addition, like you say, Will. I think he's one of the guys who is UFC worthy of a contract. There are guys who are, and there are guys who are not. He is one. I'm happy to see him in the UFC because I think we're going to get some good fights out of him. It also does great for the African market. It really does. If you want to ever, obviously COVID, take that away. If the UFC ever wanted to go to Africa, maybe Nigeria, because obviously with the champions they have, he could be another great name to stick on that card. Obviously they want to try and eradicate Ruin Pot's memory, but we're not going to forget him. One of the greatest South African fighters in the UFC ever. But yeah, well, I'm kind of with you because he does get hit a bit too much, Duplessis. He leaves himself a bit exposed sometimes, and I watched Perez fights and I thought, dudes aren't stopping him. He lets fights get away from him, but he does turn up for some of them. It's almost like if you could just turn up a bit more often, Perez, you would have you like that Wellington fight. If you just turned up a little bit more, put a little bit more output, he would have won that. There wasn't much in it between him and Wellington in that fight. I thought it was a pretty tight contest. I didn't think it got absolutely.
It was the same with the Sanchez fight.
Exactly. Yeah, I was about to say that fight as well. You got Eric Anders as well, who he went decision with. He got these losses that he's had. They're only decision losses. He's not getting knocked out, tapped out. He's a hard out. And I go with Perez as well. Well, I just watched his fight and I just kind of thought, I think Duplessis is going to have a tough time getting it to the ground. If that's where he thinks the submissions are and the potential victory is, it's not going to be easy to get Perez to the ground and beat him. I think Perez is going to be hard out for him, so I'm going to go grinding out Perez. Just 2-1 kind of thing, you might get Duplessis for the first round, a bit of explosive excitement, pound, but man, Perez has a way to grapple you, grind you, and tire you, and I think he can do it as well. Well, I think he can get a decision win too.
Sure. Moving on, Ben Rothwell against Marcin Tybura. Who have you got?
Ben Rothwell, he's on a 2-fight win streak. I've just said that out loud. How crazy that. He looked awful on his return. Then he got Stefan Struve, which is a gimme to anyone these days. And then he fought OSP, who was like, I can't bother cutting weight. Big whoop. Marcin Tybura in this one, if I'm honest with you. I just think that Ben Rothwell definitely has changed since his return back. I definitely feel his output has dropped off a little bit compared to what he used to have it. He kind of had he was a slow burner when he got into fights, and then when he started to get into them, he started to be a bit more aggressive, a bit more confident. He had that weird kind of, almost like, remember the Ultimate Warrior used to grab the wrestling rope and shake it? Ben Rothwell would do that version in the cage. He'd come towards you and he's shaking and he's throwing his combinations. I think Marcin Tybura, though, he just has a higher output. Marcin, he's got far more variation. He's got nice strikes. I don't think either of them is superb. I think Ben Rothwell's tough enough the last 3 rounds. And I think in this kind of fight, I don't think Ben Rothwell's going to spark Marcin Tybura out. I think Marcin could handle this fight a bit better. So I'm going to go Marcin Tybura for the win. Don't forget, I think Marcin Tybura, if he wanted to, could shoot for the takedown. Ben Rothwell can get taken down. We've seen it happen before. He is there for a takedown. You could see that happen as well if he gets to the cage. So I'm going to go Marcin Tybura decision. But if I'm honest, I don't really care who wins in this fight. Because neither of them are ever going to be a top 5 fighter in this day and age.
Yeah, it's one of these things where both guys are on 2-fight win streaks. But they haven't looked impressive at all, in my opinion. So it's kind of pick your poison, in my opinion, with this fight here. I think that Rothwell, he's definitely shown his age. He's been around the sport for a long time now, and he looks slower. He looks a bit more hittable as the fight goes on. I think his chin, I feel it's going to start deteriorating a little bit because the guy can still take a shot. OSP was landing some kind of big will-time shots in him and kind of wobbling a little bit. I don't think Tybura's the kind of guy that's going to really do that. I think I've got a funny feeling that he's going to try and push Tybura up against the cage and try and kind of work him against the clinch, against the fence, and kind of go down that route. I think at open distance, I think Ben's still dangerous, but I think he kind of comes chin forward, can be hit with some shots. Like I said, I'm like you in this one. I've not really got too much of an opinion on this fight. I'm going to take Ben Rothwell, though. Just to kind of differ on the side of you, and we'll see how that kind of plays out. But that's going to be a fight I'm not going to be like all in on watching straight away in the Sunday morning afterwards. But two big guys and a big fight for both guys. If whoever wins is on a 3-fight win streak in the heavyweight division, and that doesn't take too much to kind of go up to that top level of the heavyweight division. So who knows? Co-main event of the night, you got Edson Barboza against Makwan Amirkhani. Before I came on with you here, John, I actually watched an interview with Makwan Amirkhani, and he does not sound great. He does not look great. So I'm interested to see how that's going to play out, because we know that Barboza's, this is his second fight at featherweight.
Yeah.
So he'll probably be more into knowing about the weight cut, knowing about his body. But Amirkhani did not sound great in that interview I just watched. And he's taking this in short notice, so he's probably cutting himself a lot of weight to get down here.
Exactly.
I think he has got an advantage if he can get it to the ground, because Barboza's kryptonite in the past is people that can take him to the ground. Kevin Lee, Khabib Nurmagomedov. But again, look at the guys I just mentioned. They're guys that have fought for UFC belts before. You've got probably the most dominant fighter in the sport in Khabib, and you've got Kevin Lee, who fought for an interim title. And I mean, you look at the people he's losing to: Khabib, Kevin Lee, Justin Gaethje, Paul Felder. I actually think he beat Paul Felder, in my opinion, in that fight when I watch it back. Dan Ige was close. I still think he could have got the nod in that one.
Super close fight, yeah. I think 10-8 round for Barboza in the first round.
Yeah, I know. And he dropped him. He dropped him in the first fight, and semi dropped him in the second as well.
Yeah.
So, Makwan's, his boxing has been getting better, but again, that's against Chris Fishgold, Danny Henry, Edson Barboza's perennial top 10 guy, and he has been for what I want to say Cerrone fight 2014, even before that. So he's been a perennial top 10 guy for the longest time. Fought the who's who of probably the best division in the sport at 155. He's fought them all. He's won some good fights. Beat Dariush, brutal knockout. Got a win over Perez. Beat Felder. But like I say, he's fought your Cerrone's, your Michael Johnson's, your Ferguson's, and he's not looked out of place in a lot of those fights. There's some fights he's been dominated a little bit, but he's still fought away and fought hard. To me, Makwan's got to get this fight down early and kind of use his skills, because he has got skills on the ground. There's no doubt about it. He is very strong down there. Don't think he's got the greatest gas tank. I don't think Barboza's obviously got the greatest gas tank down here, but he's got weapons as well with his striking. He's got, in my opinion, a clear advantage in overall striking. So if Makwan can get him down early and establish, then he could possibly get him. I'm on the Barboza side here. I think that he kind of picks him apart in the first round and then gets him out there in the second round. So I've got Edson Barboza via stoppage.
I think Makwan Amirkhani is a guy who's only looking great against guys who aren't that top level. I think when you start giving Amirkhani tougher opponents, he's never going to get past them. In my opinion, I just don't think he is as good as he thinks he is. He was fighting far too infrequent. He had a couple of flashy wins, and that was it. He kind of rode off those, really. He kind of went, I'm awesome. And you're like, well, let's look at who you beat and how many guys are still in the UFC. And, I've not been overly impressed by him over time, I think is what it is. I think his potential's kind of almost gone. You look at his age and the way things are going, I just don't feel like he's moving in the right direction. This is only short notice fight for him. So, like you said, Will, having a gas tank problem, he's kind of got to go maybe first round all out. But don't forget the Dan Ige fight. Edson Barboza was not too bad with those takedown defenses because he's now of a comfortable size. He isn't the smaller dude. Like, guys aren't super strong or overpowering him. So I think in the featherweight division for Edson, he's going to have a match in the power, in the kind of resistance of the takedowns. I think when he sprawls, it's going to hurt guys a lot harder. You look like the likes of Kevin Lee, etc. When those guys shooting for those takedowns to Khabib, they're big dudes. They're not 155ers. They're massive guys. They're shooting in for that takedown. Edson Barboza had a really hard time to muscle them off. Even though he shredded himself, they just had this size advantage. He couldn't resist it. Look at the Dan Ige fight. Dan Ige could not take him down at some point. Edson was able to stop the takedowns and land the shots. I think Amir Khan is going to get lit up here in the fight. I think he's going to have a tough time getting the fight to the ground. And I think Barboza should have a good time here. And if you watch that Ige fight, Barboza was a bit tentative with the kicks output because obviously the threat from Ige, but he still did superb. And I think you might see the same again here. I think he doesn't have to be have high output with the kicks, but he can still be super dangerous. I've got Barboza. I think, he's just, like you said, Will, I just can't see where he's going to win because I don't think he's went off. I don't think he's dropped off. I don't think Barboza's really dropped off. I think the Danny Ige felt like I said, I think that was either a draw or a win for Barboza. I don't really overly see the big win for Ige in that fight. I would go draw, in my opinion, I think. But second fight at 145 should suit him a lot more.
So, on to our main event here, we've got, and this is a bang on the bantamweight division here. So, like I say, I think either guy wins here. I think they put themselves right in line for kind of everything that's going on in that division. We don't know what's going on with Jan and Sterling. I'm surprised nothing's really been announced for that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if Moraes, it wouldn't surprise, put it this way, I think if Moraes was to win here, then I think he wouldn't surprise me if they made a Jan Moraes fight and Sterling's kind of on the outside looking in, because obviously he's got the win over Sterling, and they've kind of did that before. They did that with Aldo as well, I think. So you've got Marlon Moraes, Corey Sandhagen as your main event here. A shorter bantamweight fighter, Moraes, a big, tall, lanky dude in Sandhagen, who's coming back after his first UFC loss here, where I don't want to say he got embarrassed against Sterling, but he got he kind of went into the web of Aljamain Sterling and got caught in it. So how do you see this kind of main event playing out here? Because it's a great, really fun main event. I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, that is the thing. He loses his first year. You lose that fight, Corey. Okay, who am I coming back to? Oh, Marlon Moraes.
Yeah.
That's a nice way to break me back into it. Like, woo! Sadly, we won't see the likes of Brett Johns fight these guys because he's went over to Bellator.
Yeah.
What? But,
yeah.
That was insane in itself, that move. But, like, that Corey Sandhagen fight against Aljamain, in a way, it was nice that it happened kind of quick for Corey, because he could say, do you know what? I need to be switched on from the get-go. I got myself caught. I was sloppy, whatever it is. I think if it was like a 5-round beating, it was a different kettle of fish. But I think because he got caught early, hopefully he looks past it. But it's still a horrible out to come into next with Marlon Moraes. Because the thing with Marlon Moraes is, he is a dude. I got to tip my cap off to him. He stopped Assunção. I don't think people sometimes realise how much of a big W that is. People don't usually stop Assunção. That dude is tough as coffin nails. Horrible to submit, horrible to knock out, and he stopped him. I take my cap off. I think that's one of his best wins. That, in my opinion, I don't like, even though he KO'd Aljamain, that was more Aljamain coming to the knee, going for the takedown, and the opportunity. And Marlon was going for the head kick. It was just an opportunistic. It just turned into a knee and a KO because of the two forces collided. Corey's got to be careful because Marlon Moraes is, like you say, well, he's short, but he's so fast and explosive, and he cracks hard. he's obviously had that fight with Aljamain, where Aljamain was put a boxing clinic and put some stage on him. So Moraes will take that on. He'll take that on board. He will have Mark Henry going to him. Right, we need to work on this. We're gonna tidy this up. We're gonna tighten everything up in your striking arsenal, because Corey Sandhagen has got nice striking in his hands. He's got good body shots. He can rip high and low. And this is where I think what we might see is if I'm Henry, I'm going to give Moraes counters to those strikes. Cool. If he's going for the body, you're going to whip in this. You're going to have a certain combination to respond back to. I think it's a hard fight, because I know you got the split decision again. Split decision over Aldo is what it is. Whatever. I'd probably put it down as maybe a draw if you really want to split hairs on that one. But it will do him confidence going against someone like Jose Aldo, because I thought that was a hard fight for Marlon Moraes. Corey, for me, I think he maybe has to try and keep the fight on the outside and just try and keep Marlon Moraes on the end of his punches. I think he's going to have a rough time, because I think Marlon's going to rip those leg kicks in as well, which might slow Corey down. But man, I'm kind of stuck on where I see Corey stand out massively to get the victory here. I just feel like Marlon's kind of level of opponents and you know how good he is, I think he's almost like a best of the rest kind of thing. Marlon Moraes could fall into that trap. I think he's like the top two. He's like the top number 2, number 3 guy, and he will be for the next couple of years. He's 32, so. But I like this. I think Marlon can get the win here. I think he can just. Yeah, I think Corey will land some good shots. I don't think he'll end up stopping or rocking Marlon. I'm going Marlon Moraes, but yeah, I'm going Marlon Moraes.
I'm kind of finding this a tough fight to pick, if I'm being honest with you as well. It's like you've got the experience of someone like Moraes, who's been down to this weight, like he's been to the kind of highest point of this weight division without having the belt, and he came out there super aggressive against Henry Cejudo, and he kind of made the pay kind of in the second round when Cejudo made some adjustments. And then, I mean, the loss to Sterling's not a bad loss, because he really took no damage. It was just he got caught in the web, like I said, of Aljamain Sterling, and I forgot just how dominant that guy is on there. Once he can get into certain positions, he's so strong, and he's just a very good fighter once it hits spots like that, and he's starting to put it all together. I am worried about the kind of gas tank of Moraes, even though he has been... he has had scheduled 5-round fights, but it's not something that he overly does. He did it kind of in the PFL or WSOF back in the day. He had a couple of fights go there. But since he came into the UFC, he's beaten good guys, Sterling, Rivera, Assunção. Say what you want about the Aldo fight, he got the decision in that one. But the guy's got a lot of big weapons, big low kicks. You say what you want about Corey Sandhagen, he's got skinny legs, so if Marlon can land some of them, he can break him down. He's got a wicked high kick. Great jiu-jitsu game, he can hang off your neck, so Sandhagen needs to be very careful here. But I do think that Sandhagen, like, he has been rocked before. You look at the Alcantara fight, he got hurt bad in that one. He had a really bad submission, looked like his arm was going to get snapped, and he came through. So he is a little bit risky, he can take some risks there, but he can stand toe-to-toe with the good guys like John Lineker as well. If you can stand there and absorb 100 of his strikes, then you can take a lick. I think his biggest path to victory here is obviously with his boxing, but I think if he can kind of weather the early Moraes storm, I think he can work his way into this fight. I think he can win late rounds. So that's where I'm kind of heading on the Sandhagen side, but my gut's telling me to pick Marlon Moraes in this one. So, and I think that if he's going to win, he probably has to do it early through stoppage, because, like I say, I think Sandhagen, he fights out of Denver. I think that even though he's not been in any kind of main events and been scheduled for 5 rounds, I do think a kid like him would embrace the kind of challenge of 5 rounds there, and I think he would probably look forward to something like that. Where Moraes, I think if it got dirty in that 3rd round, he might start looking at the clock and thinking, when's this fight going to be over? So for me, I'm going to pick Marlon Moraes. I think he stops him early, but in my opinion, I've not got a good read in this fight, and I think Sandhagen's a very legit fighter, but he's got to bounce back in style here. And I think if Moraes wins impressively here, he could absolutely be in line to face Peter Yan, which wouldn't surprise me. So I'm going to pick Moraes very early stoppage in that one there in the first couple of rounds.
Before you bet, bro, ladies and gentlemen, hit the subscribe button and like and comment. Keep going, keep coming, folks. Keep liking, keep subscribing.
Yeah. So I'll quickly go through the kind of betting side here. I've got somewhere I need to be in the next 10 minutes, but we've got a couple of minutes here. Yeah. I have one bet already. I have Giga Chikadze. I bet him last week plus 150. His line is now sitting at plus 125, I think, when I looked at that earlier on.
Still solid.
So he was actually higher than that. He was like plus 175, but then it changed quite quickly, and I kind of missed out in the decent line there. But I am probably going to bet Markus Perez at plus 135. I'm probably going to bet Topuria, who's plus 160. So in that spot there, I've got 3 dogs already that I'm betting this week, and I did that UFC 253, and it came good. So hopefully I can get that luck here and get that spot there. I bet Ulanbekov. I put him in a parlay with Casey Kenny for around about plus money last week. I made that bet quite a while ago. He's now minus 400. I think I got minus 250, minus 275. So I've got a decent line on there. I think he's a very safe kind of guy in a parlay this week. But minus 400, I don't know whether I want to bet him at that. But there is parlay pieces, in my opinion, if you've got confidence in Impa Kasanganay. Barboza's minus 260. You could go in there. Moraes, if you like the underdog play, he's plus 110. I think he's a little bit higher over here in the UK. But the bets I'm going to have, at least right now, is Giga, Topuria, Markus Perez, and I am kind of looking at, I am looking at maybe Impa Kasanganay and the under 1.5 rounds in the Tom Breese fight, the Tom Aspinall fight. So I think that he's got enough skills there to get him out there in under 7.5 minutes. So that's the kind of bets I'm looking at this week. Like John was saying before I get into the betting talk here, to hit that subscribe button, help us grow the channel, throw a thumbs up. Like I say, it helps the analytics. And also leave a comment with your favourite picks there. Every week I see more and more guys coming into there. So for myself and John, we'll be back next week for the Korean Zombie against Brian Ortega.
Dirty fight, that, isn't it?
Dirty fight, and a little bit of bad blood between them as well. So I'm looking forward. I'm actually going to start watching some of these T-City and Korean Zombie fights. Anytime you can watch Korean Zombie fights, you're in for a treat. I'm going to start watching them tomorrow. So until next week, guys, hit the subscribe button. Thank you for sticking with us for the last hour. All the very, very best, and we'll catch up with you next week.